the very anxiety and stress you experience in your life, even that from the outside everything looks really good, can be overcome by one powerful understanding. And this understanding is that your emotions lie to you. And I know that this is a bold claim, but I like in this video to go with you through a few ideas and concepts and reframings of thinking and experiencing yourself so that your emotions do not sabotage your life anymore. And I'm speaking here from my own experience as a seeker, but also from my experience in working for more than 15 years with people in therapy and coaching. So stay tuned and let's look into the different modalities and ideas that can help us to go beyond those emotions without getting cold or insensitive to things. So it might be that you are struggling with emotions like worry, anxiety, tension, stress, overwhelm. And a lot of my clients, and myself included, are experiencing these things again and again. Even that we are doing all the things right, we have our productivity systems, we understand intellectually a lot, we maybe have been doing therapy for a while or coaching, whatever it is, and yet it seems as if there are those emotions that are hijacking our system, that are hijacking our mind, and we are struggling with them. Whatever we try, they are still there. And of course, when we look into the idea of emotional intelligence, it's very important that we use and feel and sense our emotions. At the same time, what I recognize after 15 years of exploration, dealing with very intense negative feelings and sensations, that I cannot find a solution on the level of emotion itself, but I have to go beyond it. So after years doing therapy for myself, solving all the childhood trauma, solving all the negative beliefs that I had, doing all the inner work that is necessary and meaningful. I don't want to say that this isn't meaningful, but I was doing all of that and still I was struggling a lot with difficult emotions that were in a way hijacking me, and while I was experiencing them, I recognized something is off here. It's so strange. I solve the things, my life looks good from the outside, and I'm still having these intense negative emotions and feelings most of the time when I was waking up or when something happened, even tiny little things in my life, I was kind of falling off the cliff and could not gain clarity and sovereignty again. I was going through all the scientific literature, I was going into philosophy, studied religious scriptures, and all these things are very helpful. Let's not underestimate that. But at a certain moment I recognized now I have been going through all of these things, and yet I'm still struggling with these feelings and emotions that seem to hijack my sovereignty, that seem to hijack my experience of life. And so I recognize that one thing we need to learn is to go beyond those emotions, because otherwise we will fight against windmills all the time and maybe we are not able to ever move out of it. And I see that also with my clients. Most of the time, these are highly successful people. They are intellectually very aware. They have been building companies, they have families, they have been doing all the things right, and yet those emotions are hijacking them like crazy. And so we need to understand how we can build this resilience where while those emotions might still happen, we're in a position of resilience, of strength, of self-empowerment that helps us being in our center while the moods and swings are going through our system. What becomes possible if we are learning to stay above the surface, if we are not drowning in our emotions, is incredible. Because suddenly, even that those emotions are happening, we are able to go forward in our lives more self-empowered. And the strange thing is that when we're doing this kind of work, when we are learning to stay above our emotions, it's not that we are becoming cold, insensitive, or lose our empathic qualities. Instead, it's even better. We become more aligned with ourselves, and we also learn to be more connected with us and with others, and therefore can experience better states. I'm not saying negative emotions are the root cause of everything negative that we experience, but a lot of confusion can happen here because if we feel it, we think we are it, and then we are getting identified, and that can lead to a lot of trouble. When we grow up as little babies, we feel very strong emotions, from very beautiful and pleasant ones to very unpleasant ones, and that's totally normal. But the thing is that while we are growing up, we are so identified with those emotions that at a certain level we think we are those emotions. And this identification brings a lot of difficulties because suddenly we are not just informed by all of the information, all of the facts of a situation, but some feeling comes up and suddenly we can only sense and feel and act and react through those emotions. What I recognized is when I was trying to understand more about who I really am, that many of those emotions, of course, make sense because of my history, how I work through things, how I experience life, but there were also a lot of emotions that were really strange. And it is so difficult to stay on top of the game, on top of the emotions, because they are so strong. But I also understood that when I'm not able to solve this existential thing, this existential question of how to go beyond those emotions, I will all the time suffer under a certain weight, under a certain confusion and overwhelm that already while I was experiencing it felt super strange. Because I could see from the outside when I did an overview of what is taking place in my life that everything is fine, and yet I was feeling those emotions. And that doesn't mean that we don't have to process our history, that we don't have to process what is emotionally happening, but instead we are going beyond it. And we are building this resilience, this inner strength that helps us to stay in a neutral position even that emotions are going through. So at a certain moment, I recognized my emotions lie to me. And when I stepped into this framing, when I stepped into this new understanding, many things in my life were changing for the better. So the thing is that we are so addicted to our emotional states that we think if we go beyond our emotions, if we overcome our emotions, we become like robots. We are only intellectual, we are only rational. And that's not true. I'm like a super empathic person. But what I also recognize is that there is a difference about being immersed into the emotions, thinking that this is reality, or getting the information from the emotions, but also having this discernment where we can decide what we take in and what we leave out. It's really about noticing what is taking place, but not reacting, but responding to it. Having this discernment, which of those emotions are beneficial to you and your situation, and which you should just drop. And to give you an example, this morning I was waking up. I had a very nice day. The last couple of days were really good. I was waking up and I had these like strange feelings inside of me. And I don't know why, because everything is fine. Nothing has changed since yesterday. And yet there were these like distortions, I would call it. So what I did was, first, of course, half awake, I was recognizing it and thinking, oh my gosh, this is one of those days. It's horrible. I feel bad. What's wrong with me? All this negative self-talk was starting. And then I recognized like, wait. Is it possible that these emotions lie to me? That this is not true? And when I really deeply go into my heart and feel and sense, you know what? Everything is okay. There's no need for me to be afraid. There is no need for me to be depressed. There is no real reason why I should feel that right now. I decided that I will not listen to those emotions. I still felt them, but I very actively decided not to give in. And I don't mean here to push through walls to get like very protective and stiff, but like very easily to say like, this is not what I accept. I don't give consent to this state. And then I intentionally decided to drop those emotions. And they were gone. And now I'm doing this video because it's so important that we learn that we have this agency, that we have this power to go beyond it. But as long as we think that our emotions are true and our actions and our thoughts are guided by those feelings, by those sensations, I would say like we are lost. And I've been working with so many super successful people. They're doing all the things right. They are like very effective, very productive. They have the right results. And yet they are going through the motions. And the suffering and the pain that comes out of it, the weight on the shoulders is immense. So when we learn that after working through our trauma, like really processing the stuff that we have to process, that we then, after that work, also have an option to just drop out of emotional states, this is super powerful. And it is the fastest route to inner peace and inner freedom, which doesn't mean that we are not feeling anything anymore, but that there is more clarity, more alignment, and more presence in our state. Now the question is, how do we do that? Sven, how do I make that happen? My friend, I can tell you, it's much easier than you think. Of course, we have to train that. Of course, we have to learn to go through very difficult states and build this resilience. But the fundamental understanding that will help you doing that is to understand that your emotions lie to you. If there is something coming up inside of you and you recognize, this is strange, I shouldn't feel that, it doesn't really make sense. In the deepest core of your heart, you recognize that something is off. You make a pause, you just recognize and sense it, you will feel it, but you're not giving consent. You're not reacting out of the emotion, but you are responding to it. For example, a couple of days ago, I was working, I was very productive, everything was fine. Suddenly, I had this strange sensation. I was feeling drained, tired. I was a little bit like, starting with negative self-talk. And then my partner came in and she wanted to talk with me. And I recognized like, that's too much for me. I recognized something is strange here. There was no real reason. So what did I do? I recognized it. I went out of the house and went for a walk. And even that it was still there, I was trying not to give in to it, not to suppress it, but being with it without accepting it fully. I was going for the walk. I was looking into nature. I was calming down my nervous system. And I was just allowing it to happen without being absorbed by it. And this is the game here. It's like a game. You experience it, but you are not giving in. You feel it, but you're not accepting this feeling as truth. You are sensing that on the deeper level, you are good. Everything is fine. And step by step, you drop and drop and drop and drop and drop it. Always recognizing my emotions lie to me. And then at a certain point, you have built this resilience where you can just easily do that. And that's a moment when you experience it, it's very powerful. So I invite you to just play with this idea that your emotions lie to you. This will give you so much empowerment and agency back. And as I said, the emotions that truly have something important to tell you, you will recognize it because you will be able to sense and feel intuitively what you really need to listen to and which ones you are dropping. You build this powerful new level of presence and awareness that helps you to stay above the water level, and you will not drown in those emotions that lie to you. And I know many of the emotions that we are going through are very difficult to overcome. This is why I created 2 very powerful guided meditations that will help you to go beyond those negative emotional states and have this mental clarity and presence that you really want to have, that really support you in your life. I invite you to download them. They are completely for free. These meditations have more than 160,000 listens on Insight Timer already. So check out the description. There's a link for the free meditation, and I hope it will help you a lot with going beyond your emotions, recognizing that many of the emotions you experience actually lie to you. And when you are right now struggling with difficult relationships, which is so much connected to our emotional states, check out my video about difficult relationships. See you in the next video.